Happy Halloween from all of us at the Rusty Hook, as well as our friends from DuBro Fishing, ZPRO Lithium, and Feelfree Kayaks.
All right, guys, welcome back to the second part of the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast. I just reached out to my good buddy Dain Provins up in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to bring him on and work with him. He's going to talk about tips, tricks, and treats from up in the Pennsylvania region. So let's add him to the stage. Welcome to the show, Dain. Glad to have you on, buddy.
Thanks, pal. Good to see you. Good to see everybody.
I appreciate you taking a moment or two to share with the Rusty Hook friends and family out here some Halloween tips, tricks, and cold water fishing techniques that you guys up in Pennsylvania, you smallmouth monsters up there, you slayers, you can share some of those with us, man. So, hey, I'll give you the floor, and you can tell us a little bit about some of your top techniques.
So up here in north, it gets kind of weird sometimes. I went to a river that I grew up on today on the YakGadget, and in my 55 years, I've never seen it this low. So I took a drive down there yesterday, and I saw it. And where I usually love to fish below these rapids is just now one big giant eddy behind these rocks, and I just couldn't resist it this morning. And Jen asked me where I was going. I went, I'm going fishing. She said, "You taking a kayak?" I went, no, I'm just going fishing this morning. So, and I love doing it this time of year. I love it that it's not tournament time, because now I just get to have fun. Took a couple weeks off after the season's over, and this is when I just try to do a bunch of stupid things and see what works, because it was 37 when I got up this morning. The time I got down there was maybe 41, and I just didn't care. So, I literally just went through my cart this morning and just threw a bunch of goofy things in there. But what usually work, and then a couple of things that I just love catching them on. And the shocker this morning, so I had this on when I was on vacation fishing a lake, and I had this on. It's a Bigfoot scum frog. And I was throwing this in the river this morning through the rapids, and it was hilarious how they were destroying this thing this morning. And I just kept having fun with it. And then I just wanted to switch it up a little bit. But there's a tip something I learned just late this year. And I can't believe I'm going to talk about this one. I was trying to keep this one secret. I was fishing Carnegie River about a month and a half ago. And I just kept catching dink after dink after dink. Even if I switched to a big TRD. And I had these in my bag.
What's the brand there? Show us the brand.
This is a Nico Crawl.
Nico, okay. Nico Crawl, yeah. Okay.
And this is an Eclipse. My son bought these for me for my birthday. He asked me what I wanted, and this is what I wanted. And I had 2 packs of these just 2 months ago. And you can see how...
Yeah, looks like 3 are missing already.
Yeah, I have another one tied on. Still down on my rod. So what I found out with these ones here is a little late, and I didn't see a single crayfish today. But what I found out with these big Nico Crawls, they're a bigger profile, and they're 3.2 inch. And I was catching dink after dink after dink, and then I started throwing this Nico Crawl into this little wolf pack of dinks on the river. So I stood up and I threw it, and I looked, and I was trying to work it past all the small bass, and they were just literally just staring at it. And then I just saw this giant come through, and he's just looking at him going, "What are you guys thinking? And then he just destroyed it. And I was just like, I might have figured something out here. So brought him in, and found another little wolf pack of dinks. I wanted to try it again, cast it past him, brought it back, twitched it a couple times, and they would try to eat it, but I think the bigger profile kind of scared them off a little bit, and then a big one would just come in, because I mean, smaller bass are faster than bigger bass, and they just destroyed it. It was the same thing when you and I were in the Susky. I saved this for a little while, till the end, day of the AOI. I didn't throw them till day 2, but the same thing happened. It was every single cast on this Nico crawl. I don't know what it is about when the crayfish start to disappear, that's what they want. I mean, they're going to eat the little shad all the time anyways, but these Nico crawl were fantastic. So, and then there was something else I did. So I switched off of that because I was just having fun. And I was throwing just a TRD. I first started throwing a Kayak. It was a 3.5 inch on a silver flash minnow. And they didn't want anything to do with it. I would see them chase it, but they wouldn't take it. They would just follow it. I would stop it. They'd stop right behind it. And I'm like, yeah, they don't want that. I almost slowed it down a little bit. So I threw on a Hot Snakes TRD on a 1-aught on those hooks that I make. And they were doing the same thing. They would follow it in, but they didn't want it. So I switched over to big TRD, same color. They couldn't stop hitting it.
Well, it's funny you would talk about that because I just interviewed Matt from Indiana, and we were discussing, the water's cooling, the fish are feeding up, and it's just like, and I'll use Matt's analogy. It's like, why go eat one little thing at a time?
Yep.
And use all that energy to chase something little when you can have one big bite, eat that bigger substance, either a fish or crayfish, whatever, and save the energy and eat that one big meal. So that's a good point. It's why your smaller stuff wasn't working. You switched to the larger TRD, and you had a little bit more success. You caught them wanting to eat something big, one big meal at the time there. So
And then usually this time of year, I mean, I still love throwing a crankbait, even though there's a lot of leaves in the water. You just have to get lucky, throw it in the right spot, and not pull something in. But that crankbait bite, and for some reason, this color here, I have one that's a red crawl profile that has the green belly like this. They just can't stay off it this time of year. I don't know what it is. And I'll throw that in, 6.5 feet of water with a 5.5 foot drop. And sometimes I just love it. And I change the hooks out on these every single year. So,
well, we know you're a hook guy. I mean, you know your hooks. So,
well, I do. But this honestly, this Nico crawl, that is a game changer going into next year, because as you know, I step down as president next year, and I get to fish and concentrate on fishing, for the first time in
last 3, 4, 5 years. So yeah. So I'm going to have a really good time, even though as you know, I'm still going to stay with sponsorship, but I've been doing everything else plus sponsorship for years. So it's just one job that I'm going to do, and I'm really going to have fun with sponsorship this year. Excellent. So any for the last few minutes here, the tips, tricks, do you have any tools that you would recommend in the fall that help prepare you to be out on the water better?
Oh, so I should have brought it up. So, and I have so many buddies of mine that I use it on the water. I have this one tool and today they were just swallowing it. And when we were on the Susky, they swallowed it every single time. I have that one tool. It's just like a plunger hook that I can get it out. Pretty much, you just pull the TRD up. I mean, that elastic's pretty durable. You pull the elastic up, put that tool down in, and twist it and pull back out.
Get that hook right out of there.
Get that hook right out every single time. I had a buddy. We were on a yacht a couple years ago, and he calls me and he said, "It's an emergency. I need you." I'm probably a mile upriver from him, and he said, "You got to get down here real quick. I need you." So I go busting my butt to get down there. I mean, I'm thinking he's in distress. No, he had a big smallmouth that swallowed the damn hook that he didn't want to kill. So, and I was on the fish, and I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I bought you one of these tools." He said, "I forgot it," and I was like, "You SOB." And so he handed it over, and I just did my thing real quick, threw it back at him, and just moved on. That's probably my favorite tool that I have. I always have it on me. Always.
Excellent, man. Hey, well, we appreciate you taking 10 minutes out of your time to jump on the Rusty Hook. I'm going to throw you in the background because I believe we just had another buddy of ours pop on. So we're going to get some more tips, tricks, and treats from another gentleman. Stand by, folks, and we'll be right back.
Happy Halloween from all of us at the Rusty Hook, as well as our friends from DuBro Fishing, ZPRO Lithium, and Feelfree Kayaks.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast. I have another excellent angler that we're going to bring on. We just talked to our first guest was from Indiana. We just talked to a guest from Pennsylvania. Now let's go a little south. And we're going to bring on Josh Diehl from the great state of Georgia and get his tips, tricks, and Halloween treats on how to catch those big southern fish. Welcome to the show, Josh.
What's going on, John? Thanks for having me, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking a few moments out of your afternoon to help us record this show and give some of our friends and followers out there from the Rusty Hook a nice trick-or-treat special. You know, give them some tips from an old pro like you who has had one hell of a year. I know you're getting ready to load up and head to Santee for the Tournament of Champions. So give us some of your tricks of the trade from those big largies that you're chasing down there in the swamps of Georgia, and how you're going to use the fall bite that's changed since your last trip to Santee, what you think might be effective for you here in the next few days.
Okay, we can jump into that. I mean, I guess on the Santee front, I'm hoping that things are going to be a little bit similar to my last trip. To be honest with you, I think the setup is going to be relatively similar. Fish are going to be in similar positions, and it's going to be about finding where the big girls are at. The interesting thing about here, though, and the home pond, for those that don't know, I fish off of Clark's Hill, and that's the home lake, and it's a blueback herring lake. And so what I do on the home pond isn't necessarily what I do when I run around the rest of the state. There are some staples in my arsenal, and I'll go through a few of those staples. But, as I've kind of diversified and fished more the trail, I tend to find myself with a handful of common baits on the table, and I can go through those, one by one, do it however
Let's
you
do
like.
it. Heck yeah, buddy.
This bait has won more tournaments than probably anything else on circuit, and it continues to impress, and that is the Z-Man Jackhammer. This is a more shad color profile. This is what I'm throwing back home. Depending on what part of the country I'm in, depends on what colors I'm throwing.
Right.
I came from Caddo Lake. I was throwing Golden Shiner, and was getting a lot of success on Golden Shiner. Some of the waters in South Georgia, I'll throw bruised green pumpkin, black blue, and I try to match the trailer up to kind of work with the bait and the bait profile. This one has a kamikaze swim on the back of it. That's one of my staple trailers. However, I'm finding myself using Hog Farmer's spunk shad quite a bit as well.
Are those Hog Farmers? Are those the ones that got the feather tails?
It's just a pintail.
Pintail? Okay.
It's just a pintail, but it gives a little bit more finesse presentation. I actually, at Caddo is a perfect example of that. When I was at Caddo, I couldn't get him to eat the kamikaze. And when I moved to the pintail, the number of bites I got increased. It's a little bit more finesse presentation, not as much thump on the back of the bait, and so I'm getting better reaction out of it. So you thinking more finesse for your fall bite? It depends on how aggressive the fish are being. So like here on the home pond, the fish are not being overly aggressive right now. And so finesse presentation will dial up more bites. They should be really starting to get into the fall feed. I was out this morning, which is why I'm dressed the way I am. I was out this morning and water temps were still 73 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So we haven't made the turn. When I was out yesterday, parts of the lake were turning over, actively going through the turnover process. And when the lakes are going through turnover, there's a little bit of a funk going on.
Right.
And so kind of working through that process In 1 to 2 weeks, the fishing should get really, really stellar.
Excellent. Hey, so you got the jackhammer. You got some finesse stuff there. What else would you throw out there for your followers and friends?
So I have about 50 of these in stock, I swear, at any one time. But the Z-Man Sling Blades spinnerbait, instead of grabbing one off the line, I just grabbed one off my shelf. I always have them in Clearwater shad. This is a great color year-round. I usually rig it with a trailer hook and some type of small swim bait, and basically fishing around bait schools. For those areas where you maybe not want to throw an Alabama rig, you can sit down with that spinnerbait. The spinnerbait gives off good vibration. There's a few tips and tricks to kind of make it a little bit more efficient and get a little more longevity out of it. That's something that you get with a little bit of time and practice.
Hey, I couldn't really get a good look at that. Was that a silver blade or was that gold?
That's actually both. It's got a silver and a brass. There you go.
Okay. Good to know, folks.
Bad color.
Awesome. So tool-wise, something that you might suggest for this time of year, or any time of the year, who knows, however, something that you carry on your boat that you find very practical to have and useful for folks out there that might be looking to add to their arsenal.
Well, two things that I have to have on a boat for myself is a good pair of pliers and usually a pair of Rapala braided line scissors. Usually between the two of those are about the only tools that I really carry. I keep a fish gripper every now and then for, if you catch a mudfish or if you catch a pickerel and you need to de-hook one of those.
Toothy critters.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't keep a de-hooker on board. It's just preference. I've never felt the need to keep a de-hooker on board. Usually I stick a pair of pliers down there real quick and pop it. One thing that I would say, people talk about some of the deep hooks. Spend some time with your needle nose pliers, learning to go through the back of the gill plate and de-hooking from the back of the gill plate. That'll make some of those deep hooked fish easier to unhook, for instance.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate that, man.
So continuing forward, it's fall time, right? So a handful of baits that I'm also throwing. I've always got a square bill somewhere, kind of similar to what Dain was showing a moment ago. I just got a little bit more of a shad profile here. This is a Berkeley square bill. The blue colors do well on the home pond during fall herring season because the herring are starting to die off and they get a little bit of a blue hue to them. That's just a local tip and trick. I also keep some kind of top water on board, usually a sexy dog from Strike King. That's typically my go-to. Not always this color. I have some other colors though that I kind of prefer to lean on, but I try to do it to the conditions outside. So like we have a gray day, so I'd be more prone to throw a bone or white color like this one. I think this one's oyster. Where like on a sunny day, I'll throw something with a little more shine in it. And then the last thing I got, everything I've shown you is moving baits, right?
Right.
It's fall time, and we're spending a lot of time with moving baits because fish should be chasing after shad. Fish should be aggressive. Fish should be eating up for fall feed for winter time, and usually that means they're gorging themselves on bait fish. Now, with that said, there's usually a good crawl bite in the fall time, and so for my last one, this is a year-round staple. I've caught more fish on this bait than probably anything in my arsenal, and it is a swing head zoom super speed crawl. And so I buy these tungsten swing heads. These are, in this case, this is a Swagger tungsten swing head. It's got a 3/0 hook on it, and I pair it with a Zoom super speed crawl. I don't like throwing a jig, and so this is my jig replacement.
I got you.
A lot of guys like throwing a jig. I do not like throwing a jig. I have so many issues with hookup ratio with guard. This has been my adaptation. I've done some skirted versions of these. It's very effective and successful. You can drag it slow, you can drag it fast, you can get different weight profiles. But I usually stick with the same size crawl all the time. Their super speed crawl is just, it's my staple bait, and I can catch fish all over the country on it. When we were on Lake Murray for the Bassmaster event earlier this year, I got on a bite in about 24 foot of water with the super speed crawl, and basically finding individual stick ups, and then basically put the crawl right next to the stick up, and then a big fish would jump on it. Amazing bite, easy hookup ratio, high landing percentages. It's a solid bait profile.
Excellent, man. Well, hold on one second here real quick. I want to bring back Dain and get everybody on board here. And while I got you guys here, I thought we would go over some safety tips that we could share with our friends and followers out there. So now I got to say, tip one: lights, glow sticks, reflective tape, always be seen. So kids, mom and dad, make sure that your kids are visible. So you guys will get when I did this with Matt, my slides were a little bit messed up. But tip two is when your kids are out there, go in groups, especially the younger kids, and make they're traveling with adult supervision, or older teenagers always with them or two to keep an eye on them and make sure they're safe. Tip three, costumes. Always well fitted. Make sure that they're not dragging where kids might trip, and make sure that they can't be, they're flame resistant. They don't catch on fire or anything like that. Safety. That's all it is, guys.
Yep.
You know, sort of like how we always preach wearing that PFD when we're out on the water. Tip four: always look both ways when you're crossing the street. So, you know, and make sure they're well lit areas. You know, use crosswalks and things like that. Tip five: avoid dark houses. You know, obviously, if there's no lights on or on the house or outside lights, then they're not involved in the trick or treat celebration. So, just to stay away from those locations, and just use good common sense. And that's one of the things we need to teach our kids. Another one is tip six: never walk between parked cars.
That's an important
You don't know. Yeah, I mean, you don't know if they're going to start up and move, or if someone's in there with bad intentions to try to grab somebody and take off. So, and never eat candy until inspected by a parent. You know, kids, leave it in there in your candy bag and take it home and let mom and dad look at it. Grandma, grandpa, or uncle, and then parents. This is something y'all might want to think about: is air tags. If you got kids going out running around, put an air tag in their bag or in their costume. Or if they're older, use apps like tracking apps or Life 360 where you can see where they're at all times. Boys, appreciate y'all hanging out with me here and sharing your tips and tricks with us. So, again, without good people like you guys jumping on here and helping me out, I mean, who knows what the Rusty Hook wouldn't be with what it is without great people like yourselves from Pennsylvania and Georgia. Wish you nothing but the best, and I appreciate you taking your afternoon to share some tips, tricks, and treats with our audience.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, but I can't wait to see you down south this year, boys. So,
hey, appreciate y'all, and happy Halloween.
Take care, John.
Happy Halloween, everybody else. Be safe.
Hey guys, y'all stay tuned. We'll be back more with some other folks here in the near afternoon as we get everybody logged in and get some recordings going on. So make sure you always stay safe, stay safe, and make sure you check out the second half of the show.
Happy Halloween from all of us at the Rusty Hook, as well as our friends from DuBro Fishing, ZPRO Lithium, and Feelfree Kayaks.
This is the Rusty Hook Podcast, supporting people and companies that support us. Feelfree Kayaks. Paddle, pedal, or power. Something for everyone. DuBro Fishing. Manufacturer of fishing and marine products for freshwater and saltwater anglers. ZPRO Lithium. High-quality, specifically designed lithium batteries to power your outdoor recreations. Big Lake Bait Company. Texas's #1 custom soft plastics bait maker. You're tuned in to the Rusty Hook Podcast. More than a podcast, but a way of life. From the biggest lakes to the smallest creeks, we are all things kayak fishing. Refresh that drink, turn up the volume, and feel the excitement. It's time for the second half of the show. Live, raw, and unfiltered. Now, let's join the one and only Big Daddy.
All right, guys, welcome to Take 3, episode Season 4, 35, Halloween trick-or-treat special with my good friends that have been jumping on the show here from all over the nation. So we've had Indiana, we've had Pennsylvania, we've had Georgia, but we have not had a redneck from West Virginia yet. And now I'm going to add to the stage my good buddy, Michael Ridenour. What's up, brother?
How are you, brother? Been too long.
It's been too long, but you know what? What can I say? I'm just sitting here back here in the man cave, just doing stuff around the house while you're out traveling for 3 weeks, catching fish every day, big bass, and now we're coming up on the end of October, and I want to know those techniques that you were using with that water cooling off. You got that thermocline, that water's flipping, and I'm sure you ran into it maybe a little bit down in Alabama, in Kentucky, in Tennessee, Texas. I need to run that into Texas, but you may have found some cooler pockets of water, and I want to know. And our friends and followers out there would like to hear from you. One of the most successful anglers this year, finished 12th, 13th with the Anglo Deer Bass Nation. Bass Masters.
I was sitting 11th going into the final event, and after the dust settled, I finished 19th.
19th, that's right. So but you made the 10 for KBF.
Yeah.
I mean, you met a lot of personal goals this year. I mean, you killed it.
It's been a good season, buddy.
Yeah, back in April, you went Coldwater. April, you went down to Diehl and smashed them down there. Yeah. So, man, let's hear a little bit about how you make your time effective in that cold water when the water's chilling off.
So, typically in the fall, bass, getting ready for winter, put on that feed bag, start corralling bait, running it up shallow. The bait's already moving shallow. The bass just follow. So I really try to get away from some of that. I'm a big worm guy through the summer, but in the fall, I try to get away from some of that and go more to some shad style patterns or bluegill patterns or whatever the forage may be for the particular lake or river that I'm fishing. But I'm a power fisherman by heart, and I really start to focus on when they start pushing up buzz bait for top water. I try to run a buzz bait around some patchy grass or next to some structure. Unlike a whopper flopper, it's close to weedless, so you can really toss it back in shallow against the bank, against the shore, in those laydowns. And the fish really seem to respond in the fall to that topwater action. Early mornings, midday. I mean, I was finding places in Texas, topwater was on all day long. So,
yeah, that's a good point that you brought out, because people need to realize that when the water's turning and you got leaves dropping into the the water. You got grass dying and it's starting to float, being pushed by current. The top water, you have to go with something that doesn't catch all that. And so, like you said, the whopper plopper, if you can find clean water, yeah, throw it. But if not, that buzz bait does a little bit better because the way it keeps the hook up out of the water a little bit and not catching and dragging all that grass and stuff.
So typically in the fall, I kind of reverse some of the things I do in the spring. You know how I am with buzzbait down at Diehl Hollow. That's my go-to in the springs there.
Right.
And I find that the fall, really, the fish are back in transition, pushing up shallow. So I really just kind of look for the same spots that I would find fish in the spring again in the fall. Spinnerbait's another big one, probably my favorite lure to throw. The spinnerbait, be it smallmouth, largemouth, they all eat it, and big fish will eat it. So, and you can slow it down, you can burn it depending on how they want it that day. You can slow roll that thing down on bottom, or you can be burning it in the water column. And I really kind of pick apart what those fish are wanting that day. So definitely buzzbait's my number one. Spinnerbait's always tied on. That's my strong backup, and a lot of that's how Fluke Master won the Bassmaster event at Caddo. He was throwing a spinnerbait, nickel spinnerbait, whether he was catching most of his fish on. It's always a staple and always tied on. Always, I don't go anywhere without a spinnerbait tied on. So.
I don't know anything about that lake down there. Is it one of those lakes that's got full of timber, like a stone wall type setting, or is it just?
No, it's got some timber. It's got some laydown. It's got a lot of cypress. Got a lot of grass lines. Be it hydrilla, it's got a lot of It's got a little Sylvania. It's got everything.
Okay.
Really depends on where you want to fish. It's got some deep pockets and it's got some really shallow pockets. So, that's the nice thing about Caddo is it is well suited for anybody in their style of fishing.
You do your research, you can find your type of water.
Yeah, and both lakes were on fire. Free fishing went amazing on both of them. I mean, it was on fire until the cold front rolled through, and then some of my fish moved, and I had to travel a little bit. But that's the game we play.
Right.
I would say for fall, for people still wanting to cover some water and look for fish, jerkbait. And I'm going to kind of put this in two different categories: a hard jerkbait, Gunnersville for day 2 of the Tenvitational and the championship. I end up hammering that day of that event, and a lot of my fish were coming on a 110 +1 and about 9 feet of water, and I was buzzing it across some grass, ripping it out that came up about 4 feet deep. So jerkbait, even in open water, Caddo, Bistino, jerkbait, you can really slow it down or you can speed it up and really rip it erratically if the water temperature really starts to warm up and they're really reacting to that. But a hard body jerkbait is spring, fall. That's my go-to. Something that's a good suspending. You can pause that thing, let it sit, let them look at it for a minute. And you give that thing a twitch, and they usually come unglued on it. So that's definitely my number 3. I think it imitates the shad, and everybody makes a jerkbait anymore with about every paint scheme you can imagine. So whatever the forage is in your body of water, and whatever depth those fish are at, the industry's come so far in deep diving jerkbaits and suspending jerkbaits with low sinking and fast sinking. You can really hone in, I guess, what you're trying to target and the depth range they're at with a jerkbait, and it's just a phenomenal bait. I mean, bass.
Which one would you normally throw?
So I throw a lot of them, but my go-tos are the mega bass, Vision 110s and 110 Juniors.
Okay.
I've really started getting into the smaller stuff this year. The Junior Plus one really was hammering them on Gunnersville. Put some big fish in the boat in a pearl white. It almost looked translucent when you hold it up to the sun, but to look at it in your hand, it looked pearl white. And in that junior size, the bait fish are still pretty small. They're kind of honed in on the size in the fall. A lot of people say that it gets a little tougher, and I used to think it got tougher, but I didn't really downsize my setups. And once I started doing that, started catching more fish, and the bigger fish seemed to really have size of bait.
So were they moving off to the points, or were they still running pretty shallow?
So they were. You could find them in both. I found my larger schools would be set up in secondary pockets off of secondary points, typically close to shallow water or grass flat, or some type of mud flat even, that had that drop off right in that bend of that secondary point, is where my larger fish and my larger numbers of fish seem to all stage. And I'd pick some up shallow, really shallow. I'm talking inches of water. They'd be right on the bank. And some were off main lake points, but main lake secondary points or humps seem to be the places I targeted and did well with, especially with that jerk bait. So
I got you. Any tools that you like to keep in the boat that we could provide our friends and followers some tips and tricks on?
I carry a set of bubble pliers. They have the braid cuts on them. They're a little pricey, but the things, they cut everything. Sometimes you wouldn't think that getting a hook out. I don't want to carry something super heavy. They're aluminum. They're pretty light in the hand. And being aluminum, they don't rust, so you never have a sticking issue. So they're super easy to use. They're spring loaded. They don't really flex much as far as when you really got to dig a hook out. So I feel like it allows for a little quicker release of the fish and get them back to the water. So that's one of the tools I never ever leave home without. And for newer people, so this is something I don't know, maybe anglers tend to overlook after you do this for a while or you catch a lot of fish. I hear a lot of people talk about struggling even with pliers or something to remove hooks from fish, and I've talked to some and they talk about how they just push and it doesn't come out. But I find that if you take a hook out the same way you put it in, just to grab a hold of that thing, just a quick twitch of your wrist, that quick twitch will release that hook right now. Those fish are out, and I really think it's probably a lot less painless on the fish and a lot less painless on the angler that's sitting there fighting, trying to get a hook out. Because some of these hooks will bury pretty deep, but a little quick twitch will usually remove it a lot better than just steady, hard pressure fighting it. So some of the new anglers watching this, try taking it out the same way you put it in, with that good quick pop, just like you set in the hook, and you'll find it comes out a lot easier.
Right. Hey, man, so I want to, like I've done with the other guys here, this is a Halloween special, and we talk about safety. We always talk about safety on the water, so I thought maybe we could share some safety tips for our viewers when they go out with their kids. So bring up this video file here, and let's go over this here real quick. I'll tell you what, I've narrated. Won't you narrate this here and talk about tip one?
Okay. Lights, glow sticks, reflective tape. Always be seen. Oh, okay. Okay. So tip one, lights, glow sticks, reflective tape. Always be seen. If you spend very much time in a kayak or a boat, doesn't really matter, but especially in the kayak side of the industry, our side of the industry, foggy mornings, be it summer, especially in the spring and fall, though.
Man, I misled you. We're talking about trick or treating with kids.
No. Well, okay.
I don't think we were going to wear costumes.
You might want to edit that out.
No, we're going to keep that. That might make for some comedy relief or get people to watch.
Right.
Tip 3, guys, costumes. Make sure they're well fitted and flame resistant because we don't want to burn up like Michael just did.
Yeah.
But that's my fault. I misled you. And tip 4, look both ways when you cross the street. Or, safety. Safety priority. Michael's never going to let me down. Live this down. Tip 5, dark houses. Avoid them because they're not involved in trick-or-treating, kids. They're not providing candies or treats. Don't get tricked.
Stay in well-lit areas that you know.
Yeah.
Go to familiar areas. Don't trick-or-treat in unfamiliar areas, and always stay to the well-lit streets.
Yeah, and like that, well-lit streets. Don't walk between parked cars. You don't know if they're going to start moving on you, or there's someone in there that might snatch and grab you, or do have bad intent. So, they'll definitely throw Michael back out of the car. Never eat candy until it's inspected by your parents, guys and gals. Let's be safe when you get it there, and you leave it in your bag until you get home. And tip 7, parents, air tags, always recommended. You want to know where the kids are if you're not with them, if you got teenagers walking around with them. And if you got teenagers, you might put programs on their phone where you can track them if you don't already have share locations set up. Like programs like Life 360 and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, man. You old redneck.
Yeah, hey, that's how it goes, buddy. You got to break it down Bernie style for me.
Oh, heck. It's always a good time with you, Michael. I tell you. I could have read you in a little bit better there instead of making you were still on the kayak thing, and I
blame you. I blame you, John. It's all right as long as I get a good laugh out of it. I'm good.
We'll give us something to laugh about next year when I'm giving you a hard time. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the 15 minutes out of your afternoon to step outside and
always
talk
to good to jump on with you, John. Good to see you.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Rusty Hook fans and followers here on the Paddle and Fin. Make sure you go like, follow, and subscribe to Michael's channels and everybody's channels. We've had Matt from Indiana, Dain up in Pennsylvania, and Josh down in Georgia. Now we have Michael, and hello, mama. Whew. I think it's time to go. Guys, appreciate y'all. Hey, Mike, oh, she's just walking upstairs now. She says hi. Yeah, man, I appreciate you. God bless you, and happy Halloween.
You as well, buddy.
All right, guys. We'll let Michael roll, and we'll be right back with more. I think I have one more interview that we're going to add to this show, and then we're going to wrap it up. So stick around and see what happens.
Happy Halloween from all of us at the Rusty Hook, as well as our friends from DuBro Fishing, ZPRO Lithium, and Feelfree Kayaks.
All right, guys, welcome back to take 4 of the Rusty Hook. We've got another great and exciting member of the Paddle and Fin podcast family. May contain fishing host and the man who absolutely runs everything down in southeast Georgia is here with us. We're going to bring on our good buddy Daniel and let him talk about some of his fall fishing techniques. Hey, buddy, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me, John.
No, I appreciate you taking a 10, 15 minutes out of your busy day down there, getting back from fishing a tournament and spending some quality time with the wife. And, I appreciate you, spending 15 minutes here to talk about. And again, folks, we got another Georgia guy. So we get some more techniques. We get to hear about what they do down south as they cool off, going from the 100-degree weather to 80-degree weather. That's so awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so awful. But no, I mean, I guess that for you, I mean, the water does change. The temperatures cool off a little bit, especially in the evenings and mornings. And I'd like to hear what techniques you guys. We heard from one of y'all's hammers down from Georgia earlier, Josh Diehl, but I'm really looking forward to hearing from your neck of the woods, because you're over in the southeast area, down in the swamp, in the backwoods, and we'll hear a little bit more details on what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, let me say about my tournament this weekend. I was awful, man. I zeroed and skunked. So,
oh no.
Yeah, it was a bad day for me.
Now wait, now let's clarify. You didn't catch any fish, but you had opportunities.
Yes, I hooked one fish. I hooked one fish, but yeah, it was a new lake for me. Lake Blackshear out of Cordell, Georgia. It's actually a lake that the state of Georgia dammed up to cure the flood of the Flint River. And everybody in the state of Georgia knows the Flint River is known for its shoal bass. So,
okay.
But yeah, it's and I enjoyed my time down there. Like you said, the water temperature, mid 60s, air temperature, low 80s. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it's not the worst day of fishing I've ever had, but
so I mean, was it what threw you off? What was basically a new body of water and you had no experience on it, or was it just?
Well, I've had boat experience on it, and if you ain't catching fish in a certain area in a boat, you can crank that big 225 up and go somewhere else.
Right.
In which I had fish feeding on shad, but everything I threw at them they didn't want.
Right.
So I was fishing it was a bridge. I had 3 sections on the bridge, and they were enjoying their supper, but I wasn't enjoying catching no fish. But I threw everything from shad colored baits to lipless crankbaits to weightless flukes, shaky heads, everything. It was just a disaster for me, but I enjoyed my time there. It's always good to be on the water.
Well, your tournaments are hard. I mean, because you didn't get a chance to pre-fish. You went in cold. You had to go. You went on basic knowledge from past experiences, and sometimes if you don't get a chance to go in and test those theories, you can have a bad day like you did. So, but when you're out regularly fishing, what are your go-to baits this time of year?
To start out, John, I would have to say a fluke, just because the fish are feeding up on, for their winter fat and bait fish. It depends. Down here in South Georgia, we have a lot of dark water. So anything that's in, I would say, a black to blue, silver flake, red flake. I'm actually got one in my hand right now.
Well, what you got?
Yeah. So this is a custom pour fluke. I call this the Ogeechee River color, but it's just a larger fluke. So
it looks like a charcoalish green with the.
No, it's actually a purple.
Okay.
It's actually a purple with
I see blue, silver,
Yeah.
and red flake.
Yeah, it's so the silver flake in this dark water down here kind of gives it the shimmer. So that's one of my go-tos for this type fall fishing. As we, in South Georgia, we don't have a true fall or a true winter. So it's not like fishing in West Virginia where you have to beat the ice off your rod tips.
Speaking of which, do you guys have really a slowdown? Do they ever really stop feeding down there and eating up, or do they just take a break like we do up here, or they year round hammers?
No, it's nothing like. I think the fish, the water temperatures, especially when you have a consistent, I say mid 50s to mid 40s range type nights. If you have that down here in Southeast Georgia, it shuts the fishing down. So you really have to, now you got to finesse them rather than
power,
than power fishing.
Yeah.
So I do throw a Ned rig, but it's not my go-to in the wintertime. It's just something I picked up I think last year. Most of the time I went to a Ned rig and really slowed down and just kind of picked places apart. But other than that, I throw a shaky head a lot this time of year. It just being a slow type fishing, if you get, and I throw it on I throw a bigger shaky head, which is made by Z-Man, a SMH head. It was designed by Brian Latimer. Let me take this Dewey bait, shake and bake off for a minute so you can actually see so it's not like a true traditional shaky head. Brian designed this, and I had to sit down with him and talk to him about this because I really wanted to know the concept behind this when I was buying them. But on a shaky head, like old spot remover, it has that flat spot, and when the bass go to bite this SMH head, if they get that whole thing, it's not blowing their mouth out, so you get a better hook set. So he designed this head is kind of, I would say, it's kind of more round, but he's sponsored by Z-Man, so he really throws the Z-Man stuff on this stuff. So, but I choose a Dewey shake and bake worm, the dark color,
right?
And I've had I sent y'all some fish in the group chat that I caught the other day.
Yeah,
and they were actually chewing this thing, man. They were swallowing it.
DuBro Fishing Dewey baits makes some good stuff. Their plastic is only in their stores, nowhere else. Specifically designed by DuBro, so it's very, very high quality.
Yeah, because I was catching, using the worm for 6 or 7 fish. I was catching 6 or 7 fish on it. But that's just the way I rig it right there on that SMH head.
It looks good, yeah.
And sometimes I'll drop some super glue right here just to hold that to the head a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, it sits up real good in the water. And they can't resist that little, sometimes I put a chartreuse. I got Spike It pins by the Spike It company.
Right.
They're local to me, which is about 20 minutes down the road. That's where their warehouse is. So
nice.
Will set me up with some pins, and you actually just color the tail with that chartreuse, and so it gives them a little bit more in this dark color water. It gives them a little bit more to kind of aim on.
Looked like a little bit ago you were tearing apart one of those fishing poles to show me something that you like to throw too. What was that setup?
Well, I got 2 more, John. I got 2 more for you.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'll say the juice for last because that's the bait I really like to throw down here. So another finesse technique that I picked up maybe last year or early last year was the old Charlie Brewer slider worm. You ever heard of Charlie Brewer?
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people gave that technique up. You really don't see it a whole lot anymore. But you got to use light line, light tackle, spinning gear. I throw it on a 7 foot, like a 2000 size reel, light line. But yeah, it's kind of Charlie. Charlie developed this thing to fish them Tennessee rivers with and everything, and catching the smallmouth. But it's a light wire hook. It's a very finessey technique. You throw it out there and you just let it sit. And you
that's why I know of it, because I'm a dead sticker. I love throwing stuff out and letting the current do what it does with it.
Yeah. So if you hadn't really tried it, anybody listening out there, if you really ain't looked at Charlie Brewer slider stuff before, look him up. It's they're big on crappie fishermen use a lot of their stuff, but they have a lot of this. They have their own worms designed for their own hooks and things like that. So maybe I can talk to DuBro Fishing and tell him to design me a worm for that type fishing.
He'll do it.
But yeah, the juice now, I've always thrown this thing ever since I was a kid, is a buzz bait here in the fall time.
Right.
And I use this one I'm holding is actually a custom one made by JSB Customs. He's a local bait maker here out of Ellaville, Georgia. But this is a 1/4 ounce. I like throwing the smaller ones. And I trim my skirts back where they fluff out a little bit more. Just don't get in the way of the hook.
Hold it up just a little higher there. A little higher. There you go.
Yeah. So if you can tell that it's trimmed and fluffs out a little bit more. It's got the gold blade. I fish nothing but gold blade spinner baits, just because of the
darker water down there.
Darker water down here. And pink does pretty well in dark water too. I've seen a lot of guys throw pink buzz baits, pink blade, pink skirt, pink head. But yeah, that's my juice. That's what I like to throw in the fall.
Gotcha, brother. Appreciate that. Heck yeah. Hey man, so being us guys being in the business of safety, I got a presentation that all of us have talked about today, and I'm gonna bring it up and go across through this, talk about it a little bit. Let's see, where'd it go? Let me get it back to the beginning here. There we go. We were talking about it before. So tip 1, man. Why don't you go over that for us there?
Tip 1, lights, glow sticks, and reflective tape. Is that all I add to my baits to make bass bite better?
Yeah, and add it to your baits, but also, guys and gals, add it to your kids' clothing when they're out trick-or-treating,
Yeah, definitely. Stay in groups and travel with adult supervision, as always. In this world today, man, you never know what happens out there on these streets. And always try to buddy up with somebody. I don't care if you're fishing or going out trick-or-treating. Just stay in groups. Costumes.
Make sure you wear your costumes.
Yeah, always well fitted and flame retardant. Yeah, definitely.
Protect your kids.
That's right. You don't want to be baggy and trip over and fall over and hit a manhole or anything like that, or somebody's mailbox. Always look both ways when you're crossing the street. Yes, don't just run across the street. Please
use crosswalks.
Crosswalks, well-lit crosswalks.
Yes, lights.
Yeah. But yeah, our safety is important. Avoid dark houses.
Yeah, because they're not there to trick or treat, man. No. Stay away from them. They're not involved in the holiday, so just stay away from them. Go to the ones that are lit
another
up.
tip on that, if you don't see any lights on in the house, don't go up to it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Never walk between parked cars. People won't see you, and you don't know who is in that car that might not see you.
Yeah, or if they have good or bad intentions too.
Oh, yeah.
So just safety. Go out there to have fun. And guys, gals, kids, never eat your candy until you take it home. Leave it in the bag. Leave it in the bag.
Especially, John, I hate to say this, but with the fentanyl craze going around, that's a big safety issue now among us on the street. So. And
then this one here is for parents, throw an air tag on their suit, in their bucket, in their shoe, know where they will go. And if they're older and they got phones, to activate that tracking, know where they are at all times. Use it Life 360 if you have that program on their phone. A lot of folks and parents will use that program now with their teenagers. So.
I didn't even think of air tagging a child.
Yeah, I mean, because just throw it in their bucket or in their costume, and that way, you can check the air tag when it hits a Wi-Fi somewhere. And
that's right.
Especially if they don't have, they're younger, and just say you're going out with a group of people, and then they go somewhere with a group of people over, here in our area, they'll close down a whole block for a block party, and you want to be able to know where they're at. You can look at your phone and say, "Oh, they're over around the corner there," with Jimmy Joe Bob, or if they get away from Jimmy Joe Bob because he was over with another kid who was trying to get away.
Yeah.
Kids, they see things. They'll do things. You just can't. They're unpredictable.
That's it.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you taking 20 minutes to hang out with us, talking about your fall tips or tricks for our audio and visual guests here on the Paddle and Fin, the May Contain, and the Rusty Hook. Be blessed, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, sir.
All right. I thank you again, Dan.
Thank you.
Be safe. We'll talk again soon, buddy. But be blessed, stay safe, and again, we can't do it out with these fine people that support our show.
Happy Halloween from all of us at the Rusty Hook, as well as our friends from DuBro Fishing, ZPRO Lithium, and Feelfree Kayaks. Thanks for tuning in on the Rusty Hook podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and follow our channels to catch our next episodes, as well as check out past shows. You can find us on Facebook at Rusty Hook Podcast or on YouTube at WV Rapp. Always stay safe on the water and always wear your PFD.